welcome to episode 17 of Discovering Doctor Who. Today the episode I'm going to be talking about is The Idiot's Lantern, a title of which is rather interesting. According to Wikipedia, apparently the title was inspired by what I believe the writer of the episode, his father, used to call the TV, or something along those lines. But yes, The Idiot's Lantern. And it was a very interesting episode. I didn't expect it. Well, one of the commenters mentioned on the previous video that they didn't particularly care for this one. And I have an idea why, but overall, I have to say I honestly liked it. Now, I'll get into more of it here in a little bit when I give my full synopsis. But first, let's get into my favorite parts of this episode. And the first favorite part of this episode would be The Wire, essentially the bad guy of this episode. And the reason I like The Wire so much is that just the way that the creature worked, the way that the alien entity worked, reminded me so much of some of the classic Twilight Zone episodes. Just the way she or it stole people's faces. Just the very it was just a very classic sci-fi horror aspect to it. Not necessarily really scary, but creepy and weird. And I really liked that about it. It was just really well executed, again, in a very classic sci-fi horror way. So overall, I really liked The Wire. I just thought it was a good villain that I assume we're probably not going to see again. But yeah, it's just very well done in my opinion for this episode. Now, my second favorite part of this episode was when the Doctor and Rose go to the Connollys' house, and just the way that the Doctor and Rose played off of Mr. Connolly. That entire segment was just amazing, because there was a lot about Mr. Connolly that I did not like at all. Like, I found myself getting physically angry watching this episode and listening to this man talk on multiple occasions throughout the episode. Like, I would get physically angry watching this TV show, because there are people that are very much like that man. But again, the way that the Doctor and Rose interacted, not only with Mr. Connolly, but with the family in general, that was just an excellent segment. And I mean, it continued throughout several other aspects of the episode, or several other scenes in the episode. And it was just really, really good. And that was just a very strong part of this episode. Now, my third favorite part about this episode would be when Rose goes to Magpie's shop to confront him. And just in some of the earliest episodes, one of my main complaints about Rose was that I was worried she was going to become just your stereotypical damsel in distress. She wouldn't do much. She would just, constantly be getting into trouble, which, admittedly, she does get into trouble, and she is somewhat of a damsel in distress in this episode, but she is a strong character. She goes and confronts Magpie. She's the one that stands up to him. And I mean, let's face it, she's one human against an alien being. There's nothing she can do about that. But I really appreciate, and that's something that really spans over all the episodes. I really appreciate Rose as a character. I think she's very strong, and she's increasingly getting stronger as a character. And this was just one of the prime examples of how she is. She's very straightforward, gets into it. I really like that. Now, my fourth favorite part about this episode would be after... it's when the Doctor gets absolutely furious, when they bring in Rose and her face has been stolen. And just the way he gets from that moment on, just that look of sheer determination and anger at what's going on. It sends chills up my spine, because now the Doctor does get angry, in various occasions on multiple episodes. But I feel like this is one of easily the top three, maybe the most significant time so far in what I've watched, when he just gets really angry, and David Tennant just portrays it perfectly. It's like when he gets angry, you feel angry with him. You can feel that energy feeding through you, or at least I felt it while I was watching the episode. It was, that was just another great part of this episode. Now, my fifth and final favorite part of this episode, oh gosh, I locked my screen. Here we go. The Connollys themselves. Now, as I said before, Mr. Connolly infuriated me. I did not like him at all. And the way that the family develops throughout the episode, I really liked. It was just a prime example of things that, I mean, families back then likely went through. Well, crap, when was this? I forgot to write down 1953? I think that's right. 1950? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right, just in case I'll put it down here. But what, you know, some families back then might have been going through. Heck, it's what some families now go through. Just that very emotional and verbal abuse. And, you know, in this case from a man, it can be from, you know, from a woman as well. But it's just, you know, that's something that just it's unfortunately more common than we want to admit. And just the fact that in this extremely supernatural episode, like classic sci-fi episode, that it was able to bring in that human element, that something that a lot of people can relate to, that dysfunctional family, the way that when the mother kicks the father out of the house, the son is just, you know, he can't stand the man. But when the doctor and Rose convince him to, or it's actually Rose that convinces him to give his father a second chance, which is something that honestly, just based on the way the Mr. Connolly acted in that episode, I felt torn over. I was just kind of like, really? You should give him another chance? But I guess overall, it was a very strong lesson, and even if you don't agree with it completely, it really gives you some things to think about. And again, it's just something I didn't expect from this episode at all. Like, I know people told me that the two-parters of this season are some of the best. I would argue that this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the show so far. And honestly, I didn't expect that at all. But again, that was just one of the elements that really built on this very strong episode, in my opinion. Now, it's not perfect, I won't say that. There were, you know, with any episode, there's going to be some minor issues. Honestly, I found that the CG worked just fine, the way they had the blurred faces, even like the electricity coming out and stealing people's faces. I thought it looked perfectly acceptable, especially, again, in regard to viewing it as a classic sci-fi horror-ish. But the one thing that I did have an issue with was when the wire would cry that she's hungry. Now, I assume it was supposed to be meant and found in a way, or it was supposed to be sort of creepy in a way, but I just found it more annoying than anything. Just instead of being, I'm hungry, just sort of like that deep, mysterious tone, it was more of a whine. I was just like, ugh, shut up. But again, that's just me. It's just a very, very minor issue with this episode. Otherwise, I thought it was great. And that actually brings us to my favorite quotes of this episode. And this is another area where I had a lot of issues trying to narrow it down. In fact, I basically cut it into two categories, one of which is very much a cheat and one is more legit. I cut it into the doctor's quote of the episode and Rose's quote of the episode. Now, the doctor's quote of the episode, I could not pick just one. Almost all of his lines throughout this episode are just delivered in a way that cracked me up, or I was just like, yeah! Especially when he was talking to Dr. Connolly, when he was talking to Mr. Connolly. I could not pick a single quote for him, and I know that's a cop-out, but seriously, it was just, almost everything he said was gold in this episode, especially when delivered to certain characters. Now that does bring me to Rose's quote of the episode, and this one I felt it was probably the most succinct and strong line she had in the episode. Not even necessarily the best line, but it was just one that I really liked, and it made me laugh when it happened. And it's when, after she checks the back of the TV, and Mr. Connolly tells her to leave, and she says, I'm done. Nice to meet you, Tommy, Mrs. Connolly. And as for you, Mr. Connolly, only an idiot hangs the Union flag upside down. Shame on you. That was just a very, and again, it's because I could not stand the Mr. Connolly character. I just love that, that nice little jab, and it was like basically the cherry on top of the ice cream that was built up from all the lines that both the Doctor and Rose had been delivering earlier in that segment. And yeah, my raving should probably bring my synopsis to no surprise, but I really like this episode. And again, it's like to the commenter that said they didn't care for this episode, I can see some reasons why. I'm not going to assume what your reasons were, which I would like if you would explain down below, if you can, just tell me why you didn't like this episode. But for me, it was just like I said before, I think that this was probably one of my favorite episodes, possibly of the show so far. Definitely of the season. This is top 3 for me so far for this season, and it's been overall a season of strong episodes, and that, I mean, I can't lie about that. It's been overall just really, really good. And yeah, I guess there's just I'll have to end it there because I'm ready to get into the next episode, which is going to be another 2-parter, so the next one might be a little bit long. I'll try not to let it go too long, but as always, thank you all very much for watching this episode, and thank you all for the comments you leave. I love to hear all the interaction, or I love to get all the interaction from you all. It's great to hear your thoughts on the current episode I'm talking about, what might be coming up, with not too many spoilers, which everyone has been great about, and some of the connections that the episode I'm talking about right now. Some of you give connections with previous episodes from the classic series, or even, within the newer series. It's just, I absolutely love all the interaction. I love all of my viewers and all the commenters. You all are amazing. And really, it's you all that keep me going with this. Aside from the fact that I'm really legitimately enjoying this show, if it wasn't for all the comments, I wouldn't feel, as driven to keep doing this, but it's just, I love to hear everything you all have to say, and thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I'm gonna keep doing this. This has been one of the best experiences on YouTube, honestly, I've had. And, well, I'm sorry I'm rambling there. I'll cut it off now. Everyone, thank you very much. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend CraiSko. If you'd like to go check out some of his videos, he's a very funny man. He is the fearless leader of a group we like to call the Cult of Awesome. You can find them on Facebook. I'll provide a link below to both CraiSko's channel, both of his channels, and also the Facebook group if you would like to join. And also you can go to his channel right here. I'll provide a little link there. Everyone, thank you very much, and I will see you next time on the next Discovering Doctor Who.